Welcome to the Radio Shopping Show, the most amazing show on the radio. The Radio Shopping Show is a fun and unique way to save 40, 50, 60% or even more on travel destinations, family or fine dining, entertainment, auto services, plus thousands of other items. To participate on the Radio Shopping Show, simply call area code 847-931-1410. 931-1410. Questions about various merchandise and how to shop with us are welcome as well. Or go to our website, www.WRMN1410.com. Now, let's save money with the Radio Shopping Show.
And good afternoon, everyone. This is Leah sitting in the hot seat for a little bit. We've got some guests joining us in studio today. We are looking at some overcast skies, but I tell you what, the contrast of the beautiful bright green blossoms and the buds that we have on the tree right now is just enough to remind you that indeed we are into the spring season. Remember April showers, the whole thing, bring May flowers. So just keep thinking every day it might have a little rain outside. You know what our future is going to be. Well, today I'm going to introduce to you, I'm calling you Maestro Andy. So I'm bringing him into the studio today, or welcoming you into the studio today to talk a little bit about the Elgin Master Chorale. Now, I did that event about 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday night, and the very next time I went on the air, I immediately spoke of your performance. So, and I know they were under your direction that day, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, first of all, I want to say kudos and hats off. Thank you so much. Was it an exciting thing? Because whether intentional or not, you had all of the performers kind of like huddled almost within the crowd a little bit. Was it a matter of having inclusivity kind of like that? Or was it that's all the space you could find?
Yeah, well, a little bit of both. Mostly the latter. It was like there were so many people there, which was great to see such a turnout like that. But the piano was kind of tucked away back in the corner, and we had to be around the piano.
Yep.
So we just kind of, worked our way in, and it was fun being amongst the crowd.
It was almost like theater in the round, that you felt like you were in the midst of it, even if you weren't performing. So that I thought, sometimes those are the good mistakes, right? Like things that you weren't intended on, they're happy stances.
Yeah.
But anyway, the reason I wanted to bring you in is I know that I have had conversations, and maybe it was with you, Marilyn. We were always trying to get coming on the show and to do interviews, and it worked usually on Gary's night. Usually the night that I was on the air, it didn't fit out. But I'm such a fan of the arts. If you haven't caught on to that by now, I'm a fan of not only the performing arts, whether it be musical or it be from the Elgin Symphony or any other bands, to painting, to abstract art, anything I think that can express someone's talents, right? Mm-hmm. And the one thing I learned when I first moved here, now it's been about 13 years, is that Elgin's got a boatload of talent.
Oh, absolutely.
It's fantastic. Yeah. And a lot of communities of this size can't boast that. And I think and maybe you can answer this for me. I almost feel that because we have that kind of power in our performers, that's why a lot of people are willing to travel to Elgin. Even if they might not be Elginites originally, they're willing to travel here because you can get a big city performance in a smaller town.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for a long time here in Elgin. I mean, the Elgin Master Chorale just celebrated its 75th anniversary. So, the arts have been really important to Elgin for a long time, and you can really feel it. Yeah.
I did not really realize that it was 70, because we're celebrating our 75th this year. So, you're the elder in that one.
By like 1 year.
We went to school together. We'll just say that, right? But anyway, the Elgin Master Chorale, if somebody isn't familiar with it, because I do know not only does it perform from singing point of view, performance, but also there's a lot of collaborations that you do with a lot of the other organizations here in town. So let's just start about where the name came from. If you don't mind me bugging you a little bit about the history, because I think sometimes when people hear Elgin Master Chorale, they might not really know what it entails.
Right.
What everything about it. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we were originally called the Elgin Choral Union, and that confused people even more than I think what Elgin Master Chorale is. But the idea was a bunch of choirs came together to perform the Requiem by Johannes Brahms in 1947. So it was a union of church and community choirs that came together to make one really big choir. So that's why they called it the Elgin Choral Union.
Got it.
And we changed the name a number of years ago, partly because that name sounded confusing. Also, the chorus has really improved its professionalism, I would say, over the years, and we wanted to convey that in the name. A master chorale is a name used by a number of groups to sort of signify that.
And I think it shows an eliteness, something
I
that
think so,
people
yeah,
are honed
yeah.
in on their craft. I think
Right.
about high school or being in even post high school if we were going to be doing performances, there was always a master chorale group that was just, it's a whole different level than
The
what
top
it be.
level, kind of,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yep. So
yeah.
the elite level.
Yeah,
Right.
and elite is maybe a funny word, if you don't mind me saying, but because what happens is regular members of the community who love music and want to come sing, there's a place for you in the Elgin Master Chorale. We're not so elite that you can't join us. And at the same time, because we really pull together as a group, and we do have a lot of amazing singers in the choir, that we do achieve excellent performances. So it's both a really welcoming chorus and organization, and we strive for excellence. And
I think you find a lot of those talents that maybe people didn't either realize they had, or they're diamonds in the rough that you can bring to the table and really show off their skills.
Oh, definitely. And I know this from my experience. I'm a trained singer, but if I'm standing next to someone who's a better singer than I am, it all of a sudden makes me better.
Right.
And they help carry me, and that's one of the great communal aspects, social aspects of making music in a choir, is that you really do come to be like this one organism. And I love that feeling of giving yourself over to this group.
I do believe, and I've used this analogy several times on the radio, is that anything with the performance art or the arts, like even from school, there's a lot of kids when they're growing up, and a lot of adults were kids before, right? Is that there's teamwork in sports and teamwork in any kind of sports activity. I think folks underestimate the teamwork that is necessary for a quality performance like the Elgin Master Chorale. Like you just said, if somebody next to you was a better performer than you felt you were going to step up your game, because it's all about what you bring to the table for the final, the achievement, right? At the end is to have a successful performance. So I the whole aspect of it. And I will say too, I don't know how many you have in each part of the chorus, but you've got some mad range between the lower register and having some of those higher sopranos. It's very good.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I've always been jealous of the sopranos. I thought, man, I couldn't tighten my body enough to get some of those coming out of their mouths. But it's very, very. It's an interest to listen to, and especially if you know some songs and you hear somebody when you know that the finish is going to be this high kicker, and you always kind of wait. It's kind of like when somebody does the Star Spangled Banner. You know how low you have to start for the Star Spangled Banner in order to get that high note at the end.
Yeah, that's not the easiest national anthem to sing, is it? The range is pretty big.
I don't know. Is it a
Star-Spangled
double?
Banner.
Is it a double?
It's like an octave and a half. At
Yeah.
least.
So that's a tough one. So everybody knows they have to start out low. But when you hear it performed, there's something that just makes your hair stand up on your arms. There's this little tingle that you get because it's the power of music. You know. Now, talking a little bit about the history, you said usually has it always performed? I think early on in the years when you were talking in the 40s, it was over at one of the churches, probably because of the church union, right?
Yeah.
But then from what I know, it's always been at the Blizzard Theater. How long have you been doing your performances at the?
Decades.
Have you?
I can't say. I'm about to celebrate my 20th season with the Elgin Master Chorale, and decades before I came, it's been in residence at Elgin Community College, but not originally. And C. Dean Chipman, one of the early leaders of the chorus, was also associated with the community college, and so the group probably became in residence I really don't know. I think the 80s or 90s, something
Got
like
it.
that.
Yeah, so for some times, that's why I say when people kind of, I affiliate the Elgin Mass Chorale, that's where it's going to be. So, and that's a continuance. That's something that always stays, unless you're doing special holiday things and the like, then you'll be out maybe at different locations.
Yeah, different locations, or sing at Hemmons with the Elgin Symphony on their program.
How do you, I'm curious about this. So, first of all, when you want to have a performance, everybody wants to show what they got. Right? So how is it then that the Master Chorale teams up with the Youth Symphony or with the ESO or with the kids, because usually at the holiday time, it's a matter of having this big show and putting everybody together. Does everybody just set everything aside and then you practice for what those performances are, and then a couple meets before the actual event, and it's golden?
Yeah, basically for the symphony concerts, the holiday concerts we do with the symphony, we've been preparing, and then we come together the week with the orchestra and do a couple of rehearsals and then do those shows.
It's amazing.
You know what? It's an extension kind of what we were talking about before, the cooperation that has to take place within a chorus.
Right.
It's absolutely, of course, the same thing in an orchestra. And then when two organizations come to work together like that, same thing there again. So it's just this cooperation sort of on steroids.
Yeah, and because it's a whole different ball of wax if you are going to be performing with a live band, let's just say it that way, but with a live orchestra, let's give them their credit. It's a whole different type of production. And then, like I said, even the acoustics and things like that at the Blizzard, when you get that great sound behind it. How many performances do you guys put together? I know you have a couple of scheduled ones like concerts, but how many times are you out performing, like including things like Gale Borden Library?
Oh, including those things? Probably, I'm going to say, with our regular concert programming plus those, 6, 7, 8 times. It depends on the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 3 or 4 programs that we do between us and with the Elgin Symphony. Like in May, we're going to be singing Beethoven's Ninth Symphony with them.
I love that one, actually.
Like usually 3 or 4 of the really big concerts, and then another 3 or 4 smaller ones.
Do people audition for the Master Chorale?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so before we get into talking about the Rossini piece, if people are interested or they want to learn a little bit more about that, maybe they figure that they've got a talent, or sometimes people can talk. Most people are very humble. They might know they can sing, but when you can bring that talent to the table, it's just the group performance. If you have not seen them perform live, I'm going to recommend that you do that, because I know even at Gale Borden, it wasn't a real professional setting. I can only imagine what's up when people are on the risers and performing, and the acoustics. I can only imagine the sound that it puts out there. You love your gig, don't you?
I do. I'm in love with all of these people in the Elgin Master Chorale. It's such a great group.
How many are there total?
We have 95, actually, maybe almost 100.
And does
a big
it,
choir.
Because these are volunteer people. I mean, these are people who choose to be a part of this and use their time, because most of them have other gigs, are working other jobs. So it's not like this is a whole full-time dedication that they can put forward to this. So not only that, but from rehearsing, honing in your skills, learning the music that you're going to be bringing to the table. That's a heartfelt, that's a passion.
Yeah,
I agree with you. All right, so Rossini's going to be coming up. It's the Petite Messe Solennelle.
Hey, good job.
There
wow,
you go.
I see that written down, and I'm like, what the heck is that?
You know what? Choir.
Yeah.
Choir and band, and you start to learn a little bit about that. I always used to impress the ESO too, and now it's Chad, but before we would say things, and I would know certain ones, and other ones, I think a lot of music, and you probably are seeing this too, that people are familiar with the music, they just don't know the name of it. Where it comes from, or they might hear some familiarity in some of the music, because Rossini was quite, if I remember the storyline correctly, he was quite kind of like a dry sense of humor kind of guy.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so to put this piece together, let our listeners know a little bit more what about it. I thought it had to be like about Napoleon and his kind of demeanor. You know, tell me a little bit on your take on what we can expect for the 14th.
Yeah, well, Rossini was hugely popular in that time, and have to remember, it's not just classical music; it was what music was back then, and very wealthy. Also, he made a fortune as an opera composer, and a lot of his operas have some tongue-in-cheek humor in them, and that's absolutely true of this mass, which you would find surprising. I mean, it means little solemn mass, and he writes these funny things in letters about how these are the sins of his old age, because it's not a very serious mass. In fact, it's actually pretty jokey, a lot of it. And so we're singing these sort of profound words, the normal words of the liturgy, but it's got this like bounciness to it. It's almost like it's a drinking song or something, you know. It's funny, but it's not too jokey. It doesn't go over the top. It's just very charming.
You know what it does? It hovers on the line, so you get the joke. So you're in on the joke, but it doesn't go over like, okay, that was too predictable.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It kind of keeps you on that line. I don't know, but did they ever use any of his music or his productions in cartoons? Because that a lot is how classical music started out, and why a lot of people know some of these songs is because in the age of no sound, in the age of quiet movies, a lot of that had to go by the music, right? And so because like his demeanor, that's what makes me think. Like I can see Bugs Bunny pumping down the field.
Absolutely, Bugs Bunny. I mean, Rossini's opera stuff is featured heavily in Bugs Bunny things, and it's pretty hilarious.
So the performance is going to be on the 14th, and again, it's going to be at the Blizzard Theater at Elgin Community College. This is the Master Chorale. Are you performing solo, or are you partnering up with somebody, or it will be a solo performance with the Master Chorale that night?
It's essentially, I mean, we're not doing it with orchestra, so but it's an interesting scoring. The instruments that Rossini chose were two separate pianos, plus this instrument called a harmonium, which is like a little reed organ and combined with a sort of accordion. The guy playing the organ actually has to pump the organ, and it makes this beautiful but kind of strange sound. So that the combination of those three instruments, that's the accompaniment.
He always usually had just a few instruments in it, though. He wasn't big orchestras.
For the operas, the orchestras are pretty sizable. But this is a brilliant. There's also a version for this for orchestra. Okay. But this is by far the better one, and the one that he intended to write. So. It really, this weird instrument adds to the charm.
Is it, you know, it's the way you describe it, it reminds me of a bagpipe, because, you know, it's got to, you know, it's got to build to have the air in it when you're pushing it out. And it's kind of like, everything's kind of like on the after voice, like, you know, there's a little bit of that hovering on there after the air comes out, which does, it makes for a unique sound.
It does, yeah.
And so the performance is actually going to be at 3:30, so it's a matinee, and is it a one performance only?
Just the one performance, yeah.
And if folks want to find out more information, where do you recommend they go to pick up tickets or to learn more about it?
Yeah, go to our website, elginmasterchorale.org. Chorale is spelled with an E on the end, CHORALE, elginmasterchorale.org. You can get tickets there.
Got it. And then again, if you want to find out more about this or any of the other performances that happen at ECC, you can go to eccartcenter.org as well if you want to learn a little bit more about it. Now, this is you said you usually do about 6 or 7 a year. So this is what number in that 6 or 7 so far?
This is the second to the last.
Second to the last. And we're only in April. So do you have the summer off too, like a lot of the groups do?
Yeah, we take the summer off mostly. We do a summer singing academy.
Okay.
For like 3 or 4 days, something like that.
For adults or children?
For adults.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, not full days, evenings.
Yeah.
And it's just a very low-key way to sort of feel us out, see if maybe you want to join us. And we'll
what a great way to test the water, right?
It's very, it's low-key, no pressure.
Right.
No experience required. If you just want to come and try to sing and sing with a group of people, it's a fun way to do that.
Now, if somebody enjoys this, are there other things they could be doing with the Master Chorale that might not necessarily involve singing? I know that sounds funny, but there's usually advertising, there's marketing, there's all the stuff behind the scenes that make these types of concerts go on that we just aren't aware of.
Absolutely true. I mean, there's an enormous amount of work that is going on, and our board of directors does that. We have, of course, a great executive director, there are ways to volunteer for
Wonderful.
us, board members, or just helping us. We do have committees that work on marketing, that sort of thing. So we could always use more expertise if it's out there. Yeah.
So, folks, if you feel you have a talent or you're looking at some extra time on your hands and you want to find a place to spend it, consider the Elgin Master Chorale. And again, I would say go to the website if you want to find out more information. And I do believe tickets are still available for that 3:30 performance on Sunday, April 14th. Check it out with the Elgin Master Chorale. Marilyn, who's running shotgun here, and Andy, I want to say thank you guys both for very much for joining me today and sharing a little bit more about the Master Chorale. I'm so happy to finally get to do the interview myself, so I appreciate it.
Me too. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then Matt will be back with the Afternoon Deals with Matt McNeil. This is Leah with WRMN. This is your Talk of the Town. We'll be back after these.